Okay, so we are live now. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the quarantine sessions, yet another edition. We could call it an Eid edition of the quarantine sessions. Happy
Yeah,
everyone. I'm super excited today because we're not only going to talk about a topic that the quarantine sessions, yet another edition. We could call it an Eid edition. Oh,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Yeah.
Not only is this a topic that is very interesting for every startup founder, but also because of our guest. Our guest is the community manager at the Cairo Angels, who are our partners for these sessions. Nadeen Hossam, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Valentina. It's my pleasure joining you today.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. We've been waiting for this for several weeks now.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I want to delve into the principles, the 5 principles that every founder should know about branding. But before that, I know that there's always confusion with two topics that are branding and marketing. Can you
yeah,
clarify the difference between those?
yeah, definitely. Okay, so first let's explain the difference. Branding is at the core of the marketing strategy. So when we talk about branding, it should come first before marketing, before anything. If you are a startup, it's really essential to clearly define who you are as a brand before you even begin to devise your specific marketing methods, tools, and so on. Marketing refers to the tools you use to deliver the message of your brand. Okay, so marketing it keeps changing, it keeps evolving, and new tools are always we discover new tools and it evolves with technology and digital media. However, branding is something that remains constant. Marketing methods usually come and go and they change from a year to year or a season to season, but brand remains constant. So there is a very beautiful definition to explain the difference between branding and marketing. Branding is the being, while marketing is the doing. Branding builds value, while marketing extracts this value. Branding builds consumer loyalty, and marketing generates immediate response. So, for example, um, while you're selling out a product or service, you will focus on the experience in terms of branding and how people will serve your customers, how you will deliver something memorable and a memorable experience. For example, Glovo, one of the well-known startups, it will always be memorable, not just in terms of a service, but also as a brand, as it did provide a great experience starting from how you use the app and how you track the delivery to receiving the order in a very short time. And the fact that it can go anywhere and get anything you want delivered to your house. Okay, so it can be also the way of your packaging, the quality, the unique innovative solution that you actually provide. And here comes lots of startups competing under this part to try to build a base of consumers who are actually satisfied with your solution. And one of the best indicators to measure consumer loyalty is the word of mouth, besides being quantitative and measuring retention rate and market share and these stuff. On the other side, marketing generates immediate response with no clear intention to achieve something on the long term. It does not have to. Hello, Valentina, are you here? Okay, guys, if you can see me, raise your hands or say anything on chat.
Yes,
Hello.
I'm here.
Yes. I don't know what happened.
My apologies. It dropped me out of the call for some reason.
No,
Um,
it's fine. Okay, so where did I stop?
um, so where I lost you, and we have a Q&A already, okay? Where I lost you was where you were giving the example of how branding really interacts with the being of the brand, right?
Okay, so I guess you mean the part you listen to the Glovo part after before.
Before that.
Okay. Okay, great. So I was saying branding, it can also be the way of packaging, the quality, the unique solution you offer, where many startups compete in this part to build the base of consumers who are actually satisfied with your solution. And moving to the marketing side, I was saying that it does not necessarily focus on a long-term achievement or a long-term process. It can be simply focused on generating an immediate response.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you encourage customers to buy one and get one free, so this is like an immediate response.
Right. So one of the comments from our audience, Ahmad, is saying, like, can you share the presentation? Right. I know that you have a presentation
Yeah, yeah,
prepared, so
I will
perhaps,
share it. Yes.
yeah, so that we can showcase the examples. Hi, Ivan. How
Yes.
are you?
I will just mention an example talking about how marketing can harm your brand, and then I will share the presentation. Yes, sure.
Right.
So I was saying that marketing and branding, marketing and focusing on short-term results can sometimes uh, harm your brand, even if it's bringing you profits. So one of the examples is Chevrolet. If we hear Chevrolet, we usually have trouble building a clear image in our minds about Chevrolet as a brand.
Mm-hmm.
That's because Chevrolet produces a large range of products, from the small cars and affordable ones to the large cars and luxurious ones. So
Mm-hmm.
it does not have like a specific focus.
Mm-hmm.
So this is called law of expansion, when a brand decides to expand its products or services and decides to offer everything to the audience. I mean, it's not bad, but it sometimes harms your brand if you do not do it right or if you are not smart while expanding. For example, Swivel. If Swivel decided from day one that it will offer its service in Egypt, Dubai, Kenya, Pakistan, and other countries, I don't think it would be that successful like today. But instead, it focused on offering its service first in Egypt, and then when it built its base and strength, it decided to move to other countries. So that's what I mean. So what happened with Chevrolet, like many companies, it was just focusing on short-term interests ahead of the long-term strategy.
Mm-hmm.
It allowed it to sell so many cars on the short term, but what happened that it declined dramatically from 1.5 million cars to the half through 14 years. So on the short term, yes, it was very successful in selling a great quantity of cars, but on the long run, throughout the 14 or 15 years, it declined in profits. So yes, branding should always come first when you think of everything. You should consider branding when you think of everything, when you put your marketing strategy, when you decide to expand, when you decide to do anything new. We have like another example, totally the opposite of Chevrolet, and it's like called in terms of branding, it's the law of contraction, meaning that you always grow stronger when you focus on one thing, or when you narrow your focus. So we all know Subway for sandwiches, right?
Right.
Okay. So Subway was founded in 1965, and it offered only one item, the submarine sandwich. And as a result, after like 35 years, it had like more than 12,000 branches across the US. That was like coming on top after McDonald's.
Right.
So do you actually realize the power of focusing on one thing? Subway became like the second after McDonald's in terms of the number of branches.
Right.
So now we will focus more on branding and have a walkthrough on what branding is and why it's crucial. So I will be sharing now the presentation explaining like brand identity and everything about branding.
Okay, go ahead. I think it's super interesting to understand that branding is so interconnected with basically your strategy as a company, not only as a brand, right? Because what you were saying, for example, resonates with really with what you offer, with
Yes,
the offering itself.
yes, exactly.
Okay, we're waiting for the presentation. This is an eye opener, I think, because we tend to see branding as, you know, the visual element only, right? As if it was only about visuals and how to stay in people's mind. And instead, what you're saying is really something that goes beyond the visuals. This goes more into the concept of the brand. What are you selling yourself as? Not only what are you selling, but what are you selling yourself as? صح?
Yeah, I just want you to enable screen sharing because it says it's disabled.
Aha. That's strange. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn you into the host so that you can share it yourself. There you are. I think your microphone is muted, but you're able now to share screen. Perfect. We can see it. Can everyone see it? But you should unmute your microphone so that we can hear you as well. Nadeen, hello?
Yeah, you can hear me now?
Yes, I can. We cannot see you though, but we can hear you.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay. So let's like go into branding deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So by defining a brand, it's usually like the traditional definition for a brand. It's the name, term, symbol, or any feature included that identifies a company from the other and makes you differentiated among other companies or in the market. So why is it like a big deal? Because it's not just something added to your company. It's considered to be a process, and not just a process. It's a very long-term process that you have to maintain and improve, and always try to make the best out of it. So what people think of, it's like maybe it's a logo or just the name or the visual that makes a brand, but brand is actually about the consumer. It usually revolves around the consumer. A brand is what the consumer expects. It's what they have been promised, sits in the mind of customers as like it's not really the icing or the cherry of the cake or something static, but it's a dynamic journey where the customer is on and everything really changes when you think about the customer
Right.
as someone who is in this journey across a variety of experiences, and experiences is a very important word to me. Like, this is what really brands should focus on. So the brand is not just the icing on the cake, it's something inside, it's the cake itself. That's what
Right.
I like to say. So let's first start with the brand identity,
Mm-hmm.
as it's the main or the primary thing we start to define when we uh, start to do branding. A brand identity is like all the elements and visuals, verbal words, and non-verbal communication that is included uh, in your company. It's who you are. It's who you are when you express yourself to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So if you simply succeed in expressing who you are right to the audience, you have succeeded in delivering or achieving a good brand image. On the other hand, if you fail to express who you are, you will not be able to control the brand image, and people might not perceive you in the way you want. There is no wrong way or right way where people perceive you. It's just like a matter of who you want to appear in front of people. So let's say if you want to appear like you are friendly, and people perceive you as friendly, so you have succeeded. If you want to appear as if you are not really friendly at all and you are cold, we don't say this is bad or this is wrong. It's just who you want to be. So if you succeed in delivering that, then yes, you have succeeded in building your brand identity.
Right.
So let's just like say an example. If I tell you Valentina, what comes to your mind if you hear the word safe? What brand comes to your mind?
If I hear the word safe,
Yes.
perhaps an insurance company.
What?
Perhaps an insurance company.
Okay. What
Um,
else?
a, yeah, some sort of car brands that offer safety as a main
Yes.
feature.
Like what?
Which ones? I'm
Great.
not very knowledgeable with cars, to be honest.
Okay, you are really close.
Yeah.
Okay, most people remember Volvo when we hear the word safe.
Hmm.
Most people like remember Volvo.
Hmm.
So this simply means that Volvo has succeeded in owning just a term of safety and making it as a part of its brand identity. So a part of your brand identity and who you are can be like a feature like safety, or something you offer to people like safety. So since Volvo started, and like everything it has communicated in the mission and ads and everything, it usually communicates the word safe. It
Right.
has always like maintained this part. That's why everyone right now views Volvo as safe.
Right. I remember when we were brainstorming for Startups Without Borders, the logo, the colors, and everything. Um, we did an exercise for the naming and for the logo that was basically choosing 5 adjectives that would describe the brand, right? So we knew we
Yeah,
wanted it to be uplifting. We knew we wanted to be positive, inspiring. So we knew all these things, and we started writing that down and trying to connect these words to colors, right? To understand how it would
yes,
what it would
that,
express.
yeah, that's right. So Renault, for example, has won many of the major safety tests, but that did not really affect customers. It did not make customers view Renault as a safe safety, a brand for safety.
Mm-hmm.
So Volvo simply owned the term in people's minds. It's really what you own in people's minds, even subconsciously, that makes the audience remember you like instantly.
Right.
immediately.
Right.
Okay,
We
so
have a few questions. We have a few questions from the audience. So whenever we kind of pause, we can pause at some point, and we have some very interesting ones for you, Nadeen.
so tell me, or wait, I can.
Okay, sure. So Rashida is asking, when do you think a company should start building its branding and implement it across its activities?
Okay, so a company should start thinking about its branding. Uh, I guess before you launch it or after you launch it immediately, even before marketing, even before like promoting for yourself, it's something at the core. You have to know who you are at least. You have to like build your brand identity to be able to communicate with everyone
Right.
because everyone matters, not just the consumers. It's about everyone that will be related to your company in a way or another. So yeah, branding really comes first, like with your should be somehow integrated within your business.
Right, right. So Ahmed is asking if by the end of the session they can have a draft action plan or some kind of checklist. We are going to offer the checklist with the 5 branding principles. So that's one thing. Perhaps Nadine, if you want to like add to it a short.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
will add resources, and yes, I will be
great,
sending
great.
everything.
Rashida is also asking, how do you encompass branding in your marketing strategies, and how do you measure it afterwards? How do you measure the level of alignment between your branding strategies and marketing activities?
Okay, how do you measure the level of alignment?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a very interesting question. Let's say, for example, if you like do a certain ad or you keep on with a campaign for several months, if you are still at the start, and for example, you can set a key performance indicator for yourself for who you want to be perceived, and you can do like surveys all the time to measure the effectiveness of your brand. Like after each campaign, you can do surveys and ask people, how do you perceive us, or how our solution is satisfying to you, or how it solves your problem. Because maybe you offer something, the audience really perceives it differently, and it helps them in a different way. So by this way, it might make you reconsider who you want to be perceived as. You understand what I mean? You can just come up with something, or come up with a solution that you think is the perfect and the best for consumers, but they think of it differently. So it's really important to act up based on what consumers say. So one of the best things to do to make sure you are aligned is to always listen to consumers, always listen to them, get closer to them, and like be able to respond fast and be agile.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Going back to the previous question, Rashida is asking, does it come as early as launching your MVP and before your acquisition of any customer base?
Yeah, it can be so, but you don't have to like overwhelm yourself with everything about branding and include all the elements. It's really simple. You can just like define who you are and build up your brand identity, and that's it.
Right, right. It doesn't have to be so complex at the beginning,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Especially for startups, it's basically one of the principles that I will mention is that don't overcomplicate things. It should not be complicated at all.
Right. Ayman Imam is asking, related to this as well, when should we start work on building the brand and which one comes first, branding or product market fit?
Okay, this is really okay. So this is something, and this is something we cannot like integrate both together.
Mhm.
Uh, for sure, yes, they integrate in some way, but like this is a part of the business, the product market fit. This is something primary that you should always focus on. And in terms of expressing yourself to the audience and marketing, branding is also primary. So you have to like balance both together, do them in parallel. You cannot just put both in comparison.
Right, right, right. Okay, so let's continue. You were saying, you were giving us examples of brands that are magical, right? That own the term magical in our minds, right?
Exactly. You can tell me what comes to your mind when we say magical.
When we think of magic, I mean, I remember the first Disney movie that I watched when I was a child. So Disney would be a brand, right? That would resonate, I think.
Okay, so yes, that's true. It's Disney.
Right, right,
Most people, yes, attach the word magical with Disney
right.
because it's simply it's not a product or a service, it's an experience. It's a really magical experience that happens over a very long time.
Mhm.
It's like the behavior of hundreds or thousands of people that uh, uh, help in delivering such an experience.
Right.
So let's like, this is a quote from the CEO of Disney.
Mm-hmm.
He used to describe branding as a brand is a living entity and it's enriched or undermined cumulatively over time, the product of 1,000 small gestures.
Right, right. As you were saying, it's in everything you do, right? It's in everything you do and everything you communicate as well.
Yes, and the people working inside your entity and how they react to consumers, how they deliver, serve, how everything. Yes, it's
Mhm,
everything.
mhm. Right.
So that was the brand identity. So now we are moving to the brand personality. It's
Mhm,
a bit similar, and some people may confuse between both brand identity and brand personality.
mhm.
But brand personality is uh, something that helps you visualize yourself as a character, like humanize your brand. It refers to the characteristics, human characteristics associated with your business,
Mhm.
and it's very important to consider while you are interacting with consumers
Right, right,
and build personal relationships.
right. So one thing is the identity, so what
Ye-
people associate you with, and the other thing is the brand personality, right?
Yes, exactly. So the best thing to ask yourself while building your brand personality is, if my brand were a human, what traits do I want my brand to have? Do
Right.
I want it to be, like you said, uplifting, energetic, inspiring, or do I want it to be down to earth, calm, a little bit friendly, professional?
Right, right.
All of these are characteristics that you can include in your brand personality.
Mhm.
So let's, for example, if I tell you words like smooth and feminine and classy, what chocolate comes to your mind?
Smooth and feminine. Oh, a feminine chocolate. That's interesting.
Classy.
A feminine chocolate. Well,
That's
certainly it's not Ritter Sports, right?
no.
Because that's associated to a whole different thing. I'm not sure. Feminine.
Okay, let's ask the audience. Maybe they would share with us.
Any ideas? You can type it in the comments of the webinar or in the comments of our Facebook. In the meantime, we have another question. Galaxy. Ahmed Mohsen says galaxy.
Yes,
Not sure.
exactly.
Oh
Yes.
wow. Ahmad.
It's Galaxy. So Galaxy, it usually like communicates itself as a feminine brand, and it will make you live a smooth experience, and it usually brings like very feminine models to in their TV ads, like tasting chocolate while being indulged in this experience. So we usually perceive Galaxy as a smooth, classy, and feminine brand.
Right. You're right. Riham also said Galaxy, so
So we
people are
now have
very,
hello, Valentina.
yeah. Go ahead. We cannot hear you. Can you hear me? I'm not sure. Can you guys hear us? Can you guys hear me? Because we can't hear Nadine. You can type it in the comments. Maybe it's her internet as well. I hear you, Valentina, only, but I can see her screen. I can't hear Nadine. Yeah. Yes, I hear you, Valentina, but not Nadine. Okay, we're going to just wait a few minutes.
Hello?
Yes, there you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
So our audience, our listeners are typing up some questions in the meantime, but go ahead. Let's continue with the brand purpose.
No, it's fine. We can take questions now.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, we lost you again for a minute. Yeah, just a few questions that we got in the meantime. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is branding for a corporate different than branding for an individual? So I think Mona is referring to personal branding. Is that different?
Yeah. Yes, personal branding. Okay. Yes, it's a little bit different because for a corporate, you have to include so many elements and like so many KPIs, and you have to be very strategic. But personal branding, I guess it's a little bit simpler. It's not complicated like corporate branding. Yes, it has strategies and all of this, but it's a little bit.
Hello? Riham is
Yes.
asking, what's a more valuable skill set to working in advertising and marketing? The theoretical knowledge of marketing or the practical visual skills such as graphic design, video editing, etc.?
Okay. So she's asking about which is more important, the design skills and these stuff, or what the other part?
So if the practical skills like graphic design, video editing are more valuable than theoretical knowledge of marketing and branding.
Okay, so you don't have to be able to design yourself or produce yourself. You just need to have like an overview and a deep understanding of what branding is, and you can always like get people to to do your designs, your brand identity in terms of designs, because there are people specialized in this part. So you don't have to do everything yourself. You just need to understand how to involve branding in your entity.
Right. Nadine, we can't see you now. We can't see your face.
Okay.
Yes,
Can you
now
see
we
me
can
now?
see you again. Okay, great. Yes, you were telling us about brand purpose.
Yeah, but I guess I can't like share the rest of the screen, so I will just go on.
Okay.
Okay, so brand purpose is like It can be your mission or the reason why you exist beyond making money. So it's really, yeah, it really makes your brand powerful, because you may have like another vision to do some social impact or like impact people's lives with your product.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is why you should think of a brand purpose. It doesn't have to come from day one. It can be something developed by time, when you achieve a certain kind of success.
Right, right. Um, we have another question from Ahmed Mohsen. What are my branding goals? What should my branding goals be for my early stage startup before PMF,
Okay.
product market fit?
Yeah. Your branding goals should be focusing on the quality of your service. Like, let's talk business in this part,
Mm-hmm.
but believe me, branding does not work unless you deliver what you promise people. Because, for example, if I go and try out the service of a new company or startup and I find out that it's just not like expected, I will not try it again. And this happens a lot in the startup scene. There might be like new startups coming up and they have great ideas and great solutions, but when it comes to their service, it just sucks. It's not a service that is really satisfying. So most importantly is to like focus on the quality of your service, focus on the quality and the experience that you deliver,
Right, right,
because this will, on the long term, this will help you build your brand and your identity and everything.
right, right. Now, we have seen through your examples and your presentation how to connect your brand to a certain value or a certain feeling or a certain, a certain word that people will associate it with. The question is, how can we make our brand memorable?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Okay, so how to make our brand memorable?
Mm.
There should be like, here comes the principles that we should be talking about.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you should include all the essential elements of branding and know the difference between each.
Mm-hmm.
So you should include the brand identity, the personality, the brand experience, the brand story where you say who you are, your mission, your values to the people, and all the associations. Second is Second principle is the consistency. You should be consistent in communications and in all the sent messages, especially in the growth stage. So advertising and promotion and your marketing mix can play a certain role in converting people in the growth stage into customers
Mm-hmm.
if you are consistent in your messages.
Right, right. Um, I guess you started mentioning some of these principles, right? The 5 principles that
Yeah,
every entrepreneur should know for branding. What are these principles?
yeah. I started by saying to include all the branding elements in your strategy. You should come up first with a branding strategy, including all the elements.
Mm-hmm.
And second principle is the consistency, where
Right,
you should be really consistent in your delivered messages.
right.
Third principle is the thought leadership. For
Mm-hmm.
example, if you have a unique value proposition
Mm-hmm.
and you have the potential to develop a thought leadership strategy, this can really fuel your brand strategy.
Right. I think one example of that is HubSpot, right? They've managed to have sort of this blog where they have really solid pieces of advice that are related to their services and to everything
Yes,
related to
yes,
digital, right?
yes.
And hacking.
Also, another example is Uber, where
Mm-hmm.
its tagline is the smartest way to get around. Yes, it really is, because before Uber we used to suffer a lot from transportation in Egypt, especially in Egypt.
Mm.
So definitely it's the smartest way to get around.
Mm.
Also, Apple iPhone, it's a leader in providing experience, and its tagline is the experience is the product. So
Right,
that's very true.
right, right, right.
Also, Slack, where it says be more productive at work with less effort.
Mm-hmm. Right,
Before Slack, we used to like have a longer time to communicate with our team and have more difficulties. So Slack made this very easier and simpler. So
right,
all of these, yes, are examples of thought leadership strategy,
right, right.
and how you can come up with a way of communication to define yourself as a leader is by showing the inefficiency of the current system, or showing the issue lying in the system.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how you present yourself.
Mm-hmm. You were saying,
So
yeah, we were going through the principles.
yeah, so this is the third principle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The fourth one is that your brand strategy should align with your business activities. It should be like really aligning with your internal business and your corporate,
Mm-hmm.
because without alignment you might face many problems. So starting from the mission, vision, and strategy, to
Mm-hmm.
the brand, which is the customer value proposition and positioning, to the values and the employee, how employees interact with consumers. All of this should be like integrated and aligned.
Right, right, right. And the fifth one?
Yeah, the fifth one I mentioned earlier is to not complicate things. While choosing the logo, for example, you don't have to think about all the customers you will be serving in the future.
Yeah.
Instead, you should think about who you are now and who are your customers, or will be your customers now, and build your logo and your identity based on who you are right now. Not, you don't have to think so far or complicate things. Just like give yourself a break.
Right. We have a question related to this actually. Rashida is asking, for brands like Dior, they communicate elegance and aesthetic beauty. The majority of their customer base are definitely females, but they also have several product lines of fragrances and aftershaves that are targeted to males. But how do they go about from a brand that is mainly associated with targeting females into launching new lines that target other segments? Uh, than the ones that are mentally engraved to be consuming or buying, right? And then she
Yeah,
clarifies the brand is highly associated with its majority of buyers to be a specific segment. How can a brand go about when trying to appeal to newer segments that might have different characteristics?
yes. As I mentioned earlier, the law of expansion, it's sometimes, yes, some companies succeed in doing so if they really understand how they will be targeting a new segment and how they will reach them out. If they are not able to do that, they might fail. So my answer to that is some companies just are just so good that they know how to like launch a new service without affecting the base of their existing consumers, and targeting new ones. And we see lots of brands like Dior that have both products for women and men, and they might just be launching like specific products, not like a huge line of services for men, just to keep the main focus on their main brand.
Right, right. I think it's also a matter of positioning, right? How do you position yourself early on and how
Yes,
then you start adding, new customer segments? I think
yes,
recently in another webinar, one of their speakers mentioned how Apple right now, right? Apple was very, very connected to, sort of a high end buyer, right? Because of the pricing of the products, basically. And with its new product now, the iPhone SE, they're basically targeting a whole other segment. But this is happening after positioning for years and years and years, right?
Yes, right, exactly.
Exactly.
You cannot do all things at the same time.
Right. So we talked about the principles, we talked about the elements of branding. Can you share, before we go, can we share some tools with us that entrepreneurs can use? I mean, I see the Canva in the presentation. That's a fantastic tool. What other tools can entrepreneurs use to do their own branding, especially at the beginning in the early stages?
Okay, there might be tools related to measuring your marketing effectiveness, like Google Analytics and all the analytical tools to measure how your audience is engaging with you on social media. For example, you can use the MailChimp because it makes your templates identified, and you can send templates the same templates over and over. So MailChimp is important if you need to maintain your identity and communicating through emails and doing email marketing campaigns. And Canva is definitely great for designs, and it has already ready-made templates.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't recommend it if you want to build an authentic brand with a very unique logo and designs. You can use it, but you have to innovate in it, change colors, change the templates a little bit, because Canva is used by so many people nowadays, and it might look repetitive. You get
Right.
what I mean? So usually try to innovate in such a way, and there are so many tools for marketing and branding. I can add them to the to the presentation and send it out. But
Perfect.
the most important tool for me is using your mind. Your mind is your greatest tool, because you need to always think and build up your strategy by your own, and you can brainstorm with your team on how to improve your branding and how to improve your identity in general. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nadeen. This has been super useful. A lot of the people in the audience have been asking for the presentation, so we definitely are going to be sending it after that, and we're going to be adding a few links in the comments of this video. So thank you so much once again. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you, Nadeen, for joining us.
Thank you, Valentina.
Have a happy Eid and happy quarantine as usual, as we always say. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.